Hey everyone! Today I'm sharing the process video for the pieces of home layout that I did last year with the rest of the Ali Edwards community. I just didn't get a chance to finish up the voiceover for the process video last year because I was doing quite a bit of stuff for December Daily at the time, but I figured I'd finish it up now that we're getting close to the next Pieces of Us community project, which is Pieces of the Past. I've been working in a separate Life Crafted album for these projects, and just to note that I am using products mostly from Citrus Twist Kits, partly because I didn't get the physical stamps in time from the Ali Edwards shop, but also because I really loved the digital files that were released from Citrus Twist Kits at around the same time that we were working on this project. Because a lot of the journaling cards and ephemera pieces had a theme of like being warm and cozy at home. So they were just so perfect for documenting this Pieces of Home project. For the Pieces of Me project that we did earlier last year, I had some flip outs that kind of flipped out from like on a diagonal. I'll put a link down in the description box below to that project, but that kind of inspired me for this layout idea that I had in mind, and that was to have one photo for each of the 7 prompts of the Pieces of Home prompt list, and then have a printout of the floor plan of my townhouse, and then make little flip outs for each of the photos in each of the rooms directly on my floor plan, and then have the journaling for each of these prompts on a separate page. I managed to get a PDF copy of my townhouse floor plan from the builder of these townhouses, and before I printed these out, I sized them so that they would be short enough to fit onto a page in my Life Crafted album, so just about 8 inches tall. And I've also printed out the main floor and upper floor on some white cardstock and cut them out separately. While I was taking my photos for the week we were doing the Pieces of Home project, I made sure only to take long photos, so either tall or wide. And I also tried to take photos in each of the different rooms of my townhouse, although I do have 2 photos that just so happen to be in the living room. And before I printed out my photos, I resized them and cropped them down so that they were twice the area of the corresponding room on the floor plan that I had printed out. So for the portrait-oriented ones, I made them the same width as the floor plan room, but twice the height. And for the landscape-oriented ones, I made them the same height as the floor plan room, but twice the width. So that when I fold each of these photos in half, they fit into the rooms in my printed out floor plan, and I have a flip out that reveals the full photo. I was a bit nervous about folding the photo paper in half, but the photo paper that I used here was thin enough that I could crease it relatively easily and it would still stay folded up. And the crease mark surprisingly doesn't show up as damaging the surface of the photo in any way, even though this is glossy photo paper that I'm using. You'll notice that I've also printed out some squares of pattern papers from the Citrus Twist Kits Simple Days, Basics and Patterns Traveler's Notebook digital papers, and these are cropped down to approximately the same size as each of the rooms that I'll be using on this floor plan, so these will cover the fronts of each of these flip outs. And you can absolutely use full pages of pattern papers for these and then just cut them down to size once they're adhered onto the fronts of these photo flaps. I just wanted to save a bit of ink on my printer, so I'm only printing out these small squares of each pattern as opposed to printing out the full pages. And lastly, I've also printed out my full floor plan on some clear sticker paper. And while the pieces are folded down, I'm going to be cutting out each of these rooms on the clear sticker paper and adhere that clear sticker paper directly onto the fronts of each of these photo flaps, like just on top of that pattern paper. And then having the floor plan on top of the photo flip outs will help not only to make sure that the floor plan seems seamless going from room to room on my printed out floor plan, but it's also going to help me trim the photo flap to fit exactly with the room that I have on the cardstock photo plan. So my process for all of these rooms was pretty much the same. So first I folded my photo in half, and then while keeping my photo folded in half, I adhered some pattern paper onto the front of my photo flip out and trimmed the pattern paper down to make sure it wasn't overhanging any edges of my photos. And then I cut out that same room from the floor plan that I had printed out on my clear sticker paper and adhered that down onto my pattern paper. And then lastly, I just used the markings on the floor plan in the clear sticker paper to trim my photo flap to the perfect size to fit into each of these rooms on my floor plan. And once I've trimmed all of my photos into the right shape, I just adhered them down onto my base floor plan, which was printed on the white cardstock, and that's just using my Tombow Mono permanent adhesive tape printer. And then I move on to the next room. One of the problems that I ran into was that I took two photos in the living room, so I had to be a bit creative to include both those flip outs in that one living room area. So, the solution that I came up with was to have one of the photos be a flip out as usual, and then the other photo be attached to the bottom edge of the living room just with a little hinge so that it could fold up and over the other photo to kind of be like a trifold. And to do that, I'm going to make a little hinge to attach the top of that photo onto the bottom of my living room area. So I cut a strip of cardstock the same width of my living room and then 1 inch tall, and then I just folded that in half to make a hinge. Then I attached my photo onto the bottom flap of that hinge. And after that, I adhered some pattern paper to the backs of both the top half and the bottom half of that photo because both halves are going to be showing at some point in time in this trifold as you're folding it up. And I just cut my pattern paper into two halves so that I wouldn't have to worry about the extra bulk along that fold line. And after that, I attached my clear sticker paper with the floor plan onto the side of the pattern paper that's going to be showing when the trifold piece is all folded up. And while that was all folded up, I just had to cut away that section where my door was on the floor plan, and that leaves a little tiny hinge that I can use to attach that fold out onto my floor plan. It does take a bit of work to get all of these assembled between the measuring of the photo sizes compared to the floor plan room sizes and then all the fussy cutting. But I found it so satisfying to fit all of these pieces onto my floor plan once they were done. A couple of things that you might want to keep in mind while you're making these photo flaps. First of all, you might want to pay attention to the shape of each room and take a look at what parts of your photos are going to be cut out, depending on which half of your photo you're going to be adhering down onto your page. So, for example, earlier on with the bedroom photo of my boyfriend and I going to bed, if I attached the right half of the photo down onto my page so that it was opening to the left side, the way this room is shaped, I would actually have to cut out the bottom left and bottom right corners and as well as the middle top section of my photo, which is exactly where my boyfriend's head is located in the photo. So in order not to do that, I decided to attach the left half of the photo down onto my page instead so that it's opening onto the right side, and then that way I'm cutting out the top left and top right corners as well as the bottom middle section of my photo, which don't really matter as much. Here I'm just moving on to the second part of my living room, and this piece is going to be folded over with a simple flap like the rest of the rooms, but it's also going to be hidden behind that trifold piece that we just created earlier. And then I was debating about printing out a second floor plan with just the living room portion onto some clear sticker paper so that I could adhere that over the top of this pattern paper as well. But it just seemed a bit redundant, so I decided against that in the end. So in order to trim this into the correct shape and take out that notch where my front door is, I did have to take a pencil and trace that area by the front door so that this piece matches the shape of my original floor plan. And with all of these flips and flaps on this bottom part here, I just took a bit of extra time to make sure that everything could still close up properly and that everything was nice and lined up before I adhered that final flap down into place. So for the right page of my layout in this Life Crafted album, I've printed out my journaling with all 7 prompts onto one of the Traveler's Notebook pattern papers that came in that same digital kit from Citrus Swiss Kits. I did enlarge it a bit on Microsoft Word so that I could trim off the top portion of that pattern paper, which had something about a library, and then that way I could just use the 7 title slots for each of my prompts, and then the date column for the days that I had taken each of these photos. And then that's going to be adhered onto a 5 by 8 3/8 of an inch piece of white cardstock to go into my album. And then the left page of this layout is going to be a fold out with the 2 floor plans on the inside of the fold out. And I had printed out 2 copies of another one of these pattern papers from that same Citrus Swiss Kits collection to back those floor plans onto. And the main floor of my floor plan ended up being just slightly too long for my liking, so I did end up trimming off some stairs going out from my back porch, and I liked the way that floor plan fit on my page a bit better. Before I adhere these floor plans down, I had pulled out some of these ephemera pieces from Citrus Swiss Kits. These are from the Take It Inside ephemera pack, and I chose a few florals to scatter around my floor plans. And this is the ephemera pack that kind of coordinates with the digital pattern papers that I was using. To decorate the front of this flip out, I had printed out a couple of journaling cards from the Comforts of Home digital card set, which matched perfectly with the Pieces of Home theme. And on one of the journaling cards, I had stamped out my title with the Harper alphabet stamp set from Citrus Swiss, and then just decorating the front page with some more ephemera pieces as well. And that completes my Pieces of Home layout. I'm planning on doing another interactive layout in my Life Crafted album for Pieces of the Past, so make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the process video for that. And hopefully I'll have enough time to finish up my page in a couple of weeks after the Community Project Week is done, but if not, I'll definitely have it up before the next Pieces of Us project. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below if you're planning on participating in Pieces of the Past this year. Thanks so much for watching!